Welcome back, everybody, to my next video here for EDU 552. It's on Chapter 9 of the Russell text, Realistic Fiction. Today I am in the room where I teach, so that's pretty cool. I'm on break, and I figured, hey, let's get this video done. So the book that I am talking about today is Holes by Sachar. This book was a Newberry Medal Award winner, and it is so great. I remember watching the movie when I was younger, but I never read the book. I don't know why, but I definitely wish I had read it when I was a kid. This book is awesome. It follows Stanley Yelnats, who basically has a family curse going on, and his no good, dirty, rotten, pig-stealing great-great-grandfather is said to have cursed the family, and things just continuously go wrong for basically every single generation past the great-great-grandfather. But this book takes us on quite the adventure. So Stanley, again, under the curse, he kind of literally something falls from the sky. These stolen shoes fall from the sky, and he gets pegged for robbery of these famous shoes from a famous baseball player, which were used for charity. So he gets arrested and all that, but instead of going to jail, he goes to this place called Camp Green Lake. And obviously, as you can tell, there is no lake at this camp during the present day. The lake has been all washed up, and it's said that there's been a drought there for 100 years. And as you read through this book, it really has all sorts of different elements from contemporary fiction. There are parts that are historical fiction, when you are kind of getting a flashback to what is happening 100 years prior with the different characters, and kind of what's going on and why the characters are looking and digging for holes and all of that. But it's quite the adventure. So you get, obviously, in contemporary fiction, especially now, there are family relationships, and a lot of times now you have these broken families that are written about, especially in YA and young adolescent literature. So basically the family, as you know, is cursed, and everything just goes poorly for them, and Stanley's part of that. So Stanley goes to the camp, and we get the next type of trope or main theme of these types of books, which is friendship. And basically all these kids are outcasts. They have their own little nicknames that they use to identify each other in the book, like Armpit or X, and even Stanley is called Caveman, and another boy named Zero. And Zero becomes kind of Stanley's best friend in this book, and they basically call him Zero because they think of him as a nobody. He doesn't have a family. He doesn't have a brain. They talk about he's just so uneducated that he can't even read, he can't even write, and he's a teenager, and he's I never learned how to do this. So Stanley and Zero become great friends throughout this book, and Stanley eventually, as they're digging holes, he talks with Zero, and Zero's I'll dig part of your hole, which is a 6-foot hole that's deep and 6 foot around, so it's a ginormous hole. He's I'll dig part of your hole every day if you help me learn how to read and become literate. And Stanley takes him up on the offer, and he begins to learn. Zero begins to learn, and it's a really nice, touching part of the story. But it's kind of emotional too. There isn't really a main theme of this is what you learn from this book about life from Sachar, but you definitely empathize with the characters a ton for what they're going through. And even just from the standpoint of these kids are basically I don't know, they're slave labor. It's terrible what these kids are dealing with here, and just for a crime, they have to be digging these holes every day in the hot sun in the middle of a desert every day looking for some treasure, and it's terrible. So from that aspect, I'm super relating to it, and just this is terrible for kids. This is child abuse. I couldn't even imagine it happening in real life. But besides that, eventually Zero basically runs away. He gets in trouble, and he runs away, And Stanley, after some thought, basically goes after him to find him. And all the adults at the camp are like, they're gonna be dead, like, you know, we're just told the families they're gonna be dead, like they were never here and all that. And they do eventually like kind of come through this adventure and these really tough times of being super dehydrated, and they find out stuff from the book that we learn about in flashbacks. So it's really cool to get these flashbacks kind of thrown in throughout the chapters in the book, about what life was like 100 years ago for the camp, right? So it actually used to be a lake, and basically you learn about like the racism of this time, and like a black man kissed a white woman and they were going to kill the man, and it's like a very emotional and very tough part to read too, like for this, even though it's written in a way that kids could access really easily. But then you start to connect that like the characters that we've learned of Zero and Stanley are like the descendants of the characters that were immediately affected at the same location 100 years ago. And the warden, who is like in charge of the whole camp, she is looking for something very valuable, and that's why all these kids have to dig the holes. And she believes, like, I don't really know exactly what she believes it'll be that she finds, but she believes that something important is there. And it's just amazing. Like, obviously you come to the resolution of the book, and the ending's also interesting too, because it doesn't sum up, I guess, how like normal books would, and it's just super interesting. So I really like this book. I would highly recommend it. I actually want to go watch the movie again now, because I remember watching that as a kid, and it was funny too because I know that Shia LaBeouf played Stanley in the movie, and just to think about, like as I was reading, like I was picturing him as the character. And the first half of this book is kind of funny too. I think the kids have nice bickering back and forth with them and the adults. Like it's kind of very funny because they're kind of going through this trauma, but they're laughing about it, I guess, and they're making the most of their situation. But then the second half of the book does get very serious, and it's pretty intense. And I really enjoyed this book. So hopefully one day I could use this book with students as like a read aloud or something. I know way back in the day, people didn't think it was an appropriate book to use because it talks about like child incarceration. But I think a lot of students would be able to relate to our characters here, and just I think it's relatable for students overall. So hopefully you like this review of the book Holes, Newberry Award winner. Also, just want to point out, I think that the cover of this book, like this version, is awesome. Like the sky, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but the sky is like, I don't know, it looks actually like the sky, which I think is pretty sweet. I don't know if that makes sense, but when it reflects in the light, it shines, and I think that's really cool. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.